Hi everyone, I hope you're doing great and I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening. Today I'm going to cover this particular topic, okay? And it's called the truth of being a single parent, okay? And I actually made a podcast about it yesterday, or I tried to at least, and it got erased, okay? So I don't know what happened, but for some reason it didn't go as I planned. So, here I am making a video, right? Maybe a video is a better idea for this topic, okay? I do love making podcasts as they're extremely easy to make. I don't have to worry about what I look like, so I can just focus more on my words and what I'm saying and just I can focus on speaking my truth, right? But I'm just gonna pretend that, the camera isn't here, right? So, as I've gotten to do this to making these videos more and more, I feel like I'm getting better and I feel like I can be myself more, and I can kind of like let loose and just focus on my thoughts. So yeah, it is getting much easier and I'm getting extremely more comfortable in front of the camera now. So that's very good because I can actually focus on what I have to say. In the beginning, it was a lot more nerve-wracking, and for those of you that are judging people in front of the camera, right? For those of you that are judging YouTubers, please stop doing it, okay? Try making a video yourself and see how you do, okay? I would love to judge that for you. So yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, okay? And some people make it look exceptionally easy, which is great. Anyway, so back to the topic, okay? So today we're going to talk about the truth of being a single parent, okay? So for all of you guys out there, if you are a single parent, I'm very sorry if you didn't end up, if that was not your intention to begin with. If you didn't want to become a single parent, I'm very sorry. I feel for you as I know how difficult it is to be a single parent, okay? So, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this because there's so much, there are a lot of videos out there that are making extremely negative comments and extremely negative content when it comes to single parents, especially single mothers. So single mothers are bashed online. They're talked about in an extremely negative light. And what this does is it actually makes the job of a single parent even more difficult. You know, just remember before you bash anyone, get to know their story. Find out why they are in a situation like this. And then just maybe you will learn something and you will not be as judgmental. So I do think that, and sorry for all of you guys out there, this is just my truth, right? And my truth might offend some people, and that's okay, right? But I do think that, a lot of men are perhaps a little bit threatened by a single mom. And the reason being is because a single mom is able to do everything by herself. Not only is she raising a kiddo by herself, right? Or kids, multiple kids, but she's also doing it all by herself, independently of a male, right? And that goes to show that a human being, a woman in particular, is very strong, right? And she doesn't necessarily need anyone else in order to survive, in order to make it, and in order to even provide for a kid or kids, right? So I think that threatens a lot of males, okay? I think it threatens a lot of males who are not in this position, perhaps, who are, not so strong within themselves yet, right? So I think that's why maybe there's so much bashing when it comes to, single parents who are women. But you know, of course, there are other reasons too, right? But that's just one of them, and that's just one of my thoughts, right? And so yeah, you know, guys, from experience, right? A lot of males are also asking, you know, what is the role of a male, right? Because as you know, it has changed over the years, right? So a lot of guys, they're going into this depression, not knowing what their role in society is any longer, right? If I'm not a provider, right, then what am I? Well, you are the consciousness behind a provider. I'm just kidding. No, but really, you are, right? But I guess what I'm saying, what I mean by this is that you males, of course, they hold value, just like females, right? And even though males and females have masculine and feminine energies within themselves, we still, a male, for example, still has certain characteristics, like biologically speaking, he's a male, right? So his thinking is a little bit different. His body is different. The things that he does, the things, his interests will be slightly different than that of a female, right? So he will be handling tasks in a slightly different way. He will be more geared towards specific things, right? And so we are still biologically different physically, right? The way that we respond to situations, the way we handle stresses, the way we are geared into certain positions, for example, right? That's going to be different. Okay, so there are a lot of differences between us, and those differences, I think, are they're good. That's what kind of gives us this complementary balance, right, between each other, right? So a male and a female, we still balance one another, right? And so and not only that, right, but when it comes to like child rearing, for example, right, when when a female is extremely worn out, for example, emotionally, right, and that usually happens at the end of the day, right, after being with your kids all day long, right, and I'm gonna go discuss that in more detail later on, right, but when this happens, usually if she does have another counterpart, right, if she has a male, if she's with a partner, right, she can just pass down her children to her partner, right, and get a break herself, right? Or really, if they're together maybe all day long, right, maybe he's working from home, maybe she's working from home, right, the family dynamics nowadays are extremely different, right? So but maybe they're in this situation, right? So they can kind of like have each other's back, right? So when she's emotionally exhausted, she can pass down the kids to him and then go for a walk, right? Anyway, so in when you're a single parent, this is not possible, okay? And that's why, guys, that's why you need it, okay? Because you guys can balance each other out. You can help one another. You can, in times of need, right? That's the way that a healthy family should operate. If you don't have that kind of a dynamic, which is also very common nowadays, right? There are a lot of like partnered women, right? Who, or men maybe, right? But I hear this more often from females, right? And this scenario is she's married or she has a boyfriend, right? But the boyfriend is not available, you know, and especially emotionally, right? So and as you all know, the hardest part of being a parent is the emotional. Okay, it's not the physical, right? For some, it's also the physical, right? If they're not in shape, right? If they're not fit. But to me personally, for example, the hardest part of being a parent is the emotional exhaustion. It's the lack of emotional energy that comes at the end of the day, you know, at the end of most days, you know. So anyways, it really does take, two people to raise a child, a healthy child, okay? Another reason why you shouldn't bash a single parent is because they're doing a job of an entire village, right? it takes a village to raise a child, right? That's the saying, right? But I will change the saying, and I will say that it takes a healthy village to raise a healthy child, okay? A village, most villages nowadays, they're not healthy, okay? Especially in the 21st century, right? And especially nowadays, um, you know, just because you have that village doesn't mean that they're going to do their jobs well, right? And so they might, with their mindsets, they might even end up damaging the kid even farther, right? Or they might. Everyone has different family dynamics, right? So if you have a narc in your family, right, they'll do anything in their power to like separate you from your mom, from your dad, right? So they'll take the child and they'll treat them as if they'll pit everyone against one another, basically. So sometimes they pit their own children against their parents, right? And so this can be an issue too, right, in family dynamics, right? So if you have a narc in your family, which is very likely, right, then this will happen. Okay, so once again, the village doesn't apply here, okay? It's better to have a healthy mom and a healthy dad, or a healthy mom, than let your child, then allow your child to be raised by an unhealthy village. Okay, that's another point that I'm going to make, right? Also, right, it's extremely selfish of some people to think that children just come into this world because of to meet the needs of their parents. No way, that's not the case, okay? Just because a parent wanted a child, right, doesn't mean that, first of all, it's going to happen, okay? It's in God's hands, okay? The fact that this child came into this world is ultimately for the greater purpose of human beings, okay? Especially the more advanced souls, okay? So if you consider the more advanced souls that have been coming in here, have been reincarnating into this world, their purpose is a lot greater than just being here with you, right? Or because you suddenly wanted a child, or maybe because you want someone to support you in your old age, right? Or maybe you want company, or whatever the selfish reason is, right? Your child was born for a reason, okay, guys? There were many instances when a kid when a child, when parents wanted kids and they never got kids, right? Or there were instances, as in my case, guys, right? My kid was born from one night, just a single night, within 5 minutes, okay? It wasn't after years of trying and trying, right? No, it was just it took one single night, 5 minutes, okay? And that's it. And at my age, right, and in terms of statistics, right, if you considered statistics, not just my age, right, but everything basically, right, the amount of time that it took, right, the amount of days, the odds were against me, completely against me. There was like a 0.000 to infinity, right, 1 to infinity 0.1, right, percent. That was the percentage of me having kids, okay, like that. But it happened. It happened anyways, and because it was God's will, right? Like I said, there are specific souls that are meant to reincarnate here on earth in order to advance society, in order to awaken the collective, in order to raise the collective frequency, in order to help everyone ascend to another dimension, right? So to the 5D. Okay, so a lot of souls have been coming in here just because of that, okay? And their purpose is a lot greater than, for example, keeping you company or, helping you in your old age. That might be the case too, right? They might be in your family also, that's very likely too. In order to guide you, in order to protect you even, in order to teach you, okay? And it starts from family, right? So a lot of these souls, they are a gift sent to you by God, okay? It's just more often than not, they're extremely overlooked, right? They become the black sheep, they become the scapegoat of the family, right? So that's often the case. These very special souls, they're treated as if they're dirt, right? When in reality, they're extremely special. They're highly advanced, and they're very much, like I said, they're God's gift to those families that they were born into. Okay, so of course, not every soul is going to be like this, and every soul has its own special purpose. Okay, and don't forget about that. Okay, so don't just automatically assume that a child is born for your selfish reasons, right? They're not. Okay, guys. So there's that also, right? So families, um, you know, it is extremely difficult to have a child on your own. It's extremely difficult to raise a kiddo on your own. Okay, because of a lot of different things, right? First of all, not only do the single parents have to raise their children alone, right? But in most cases, they don't even have a village. They don't have anyone to count on. They don't have anyone to rely on, right? They're completely on their own. That's one thing, right? So that makes the job even more difficult. Another thing is they have to work, right? In most cases, they still have to provide for their kids, for themselves, right? So they have to work. And if their job is emotionally draining, right, then just imagine that, right? Having a child can be extremely emotionally draining, okay? So and I'll explain to you why, okay? And because of that, right, uh, uh, they get depleted even more, right? So if your job is extremely emotionally draining, and if you're with your kids all day long, right, then you have to work two jobs, right? And that's that. You know, a job is even it's a lot less difficult than raising a child. I would say that, okay. Um, a lot of jobs are physical in nature, right? They don't take to like a toll on your emotional well-being, right? On your mental well-being. They're not too um, mentally challenging, perhaps, right? Or even emotionally challenging. So they're just kind of like physical in nature, right? So those are like the easiest jobs, I would say, in comparison, okay? So raising a child, it can be extremely difficult, and here's why, okay? First of all, right, the first couple of years until maybe they're 5, right? You're My kid started sleeping at around maybe 4, right? But before that, I just wasn't sleeping at all, So I was like a walking dead. I was a walking zombie, and I had to basically, instead of living, I had to survive. And so on top of it all, when my kiddo went to bed, I had to work. I had to work, but I love my job, right? So thank God for that. I love teaching, and because I was doing something that gave me emotional fulfillment, that actually filled me up instead of taking away from me even more, right? So really, if you're a single parent, make sure that the job that you're doing is really, it's something that you enjoy, okay? Because if you are doing something that you don't enjoy, then raising a child will be even harder, okay? Of course, I know it's not always possible for everyone, right? But we should definitely be focused on looking for something that we are fulfilled in, okay? Another thing is, right, when the child gets a little bit older, right, other challenges come in, okay? So there's the tantrums, right? I found it extremely difficult while dealing with tantrums because they happened very often, and I had to stay like a rock. I had to be extremely collected, right? So guys, your children will whip you into warrior spiritual shape, okay? That's why they're here too, okay? They're here to teach you patience. They're here to teach you how to set boundaries. They're here to teach you how to be compassionate. They're here to teach you how to love another human being unconditionally, right? Even if they're acting like a complete lunatic, even if they're not making any sense, which most children don't, right? Until a certain age, right? They're not capable of rational thinking, right? So they will tell you like things like, oh, they'll get extremely upset and maybe throw a tantrum over like you hitting the ball the wrong way, right? Or maybe you gave them the pancakes, in a way that they didn't want, right? it's things like that basically, right? And so there's no logic with kids until a certain age, and that's extremely difficult. As human beings, we still have our emotions. We still, like for example, I noticed that kids can be very greedy, right? All about me, right? They're very self-centered to us until a certain age, right? So it takes time for them to learn to be less selfish, right? And so this really can become very repulsive to you as a human being, right? As an older, like as an adult, right? So there's that too, right? So you become kind of like, sometimes you're looking at them and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I'm dealing with this. I can't believe that I'm raising someone like that. But of course, that's the wrong way to think, right? Because they're kids, they're not capable yet, right? Of certain things, right? So you have to remember that they're still going through different stages, right? And their brain is developing, right? And that's the reason, for example, that another thing is you have to tell them what to do over and over again, right? And they're still not listening. Like they don't listen, right? Or they know that what they're not supposed to do, but they do it anyways, right? And that's because they don't have the impulse control. They don't have the ability to control themselves, right? So that task, that emotional task, mental task of telling them what to do all day long and them not listening can be extremely frustrating around the age of 4 to 5. And maybe 6 and 7 and so on, right? So but as they get older, they will learn all of this, right? And it will get easier, right? But of course there will be other challenges, right, that we'll have to experience, right? So new levels, new devils, I guess, in this situation, right? But once again, you have to understand, right, that because of all of those things, right, parenting is extremely exhausting. It's mentally taxing. It's emotionally taxing. Okay, and so please, guys, understand all of this. Parents have to deal with nagging all day long. From the more demanding, right? Seeing the selfishness, seeing the carelessness, seeing getting physically hurt. For example, your hair getting is gets pulled all the time. Maybe your kiddo gets overexcited and just does something that they don't want to do, right? They don't mean to do it, but they still end up like biting you or hurting you, right? So this happens all the time. Then there's the danger, right? They get themselves into very dangerous situations, okay? So and you as a parent, you're always worried about them, right? So maybe they start climbing a tree, right? Maybe they start, I don't know, walking somewhere where they're not supposed to, somewhere where it's too high, right? Anyway, so here's the thing about this, guys, right? What I learned about this, right, is that let them do something that is dangerous, okay, but not too dangerous, okay? Don't project your own fears onto them because you're taking away their ability to build courage, okay, courage, and their ability to face their fears, okay? By challenging themselves and by doing tasks that are seemingly kind of dangerous, okay? They're actually, they're learning how to face their fears, okay? And what they're learning is like, oh, okay, this is scary, but I got this, this is scary, but I still got this. So when they are, later on down the road, when they are facing a fearful situation, they'll be able to handle it, okay? If you take this away from them, right, and if you're constantly just like interfering when they're trying to challenge it themselves and you're projecting your own fears onto them, then they're going to have a very difficult time facing their fears, okay, in the long run, okay? So just remember that as a parent, right? If you are a parent or if you're going to have a child, I don't know, right? So this is what I noticed. But of course, right, like I said, because you always have to see your child going through, doing dangerous things, right? It's very difficult. It's very difficult emotionally. Once again, you're worried about them. It's natural to be worried about them. Because. At a certain point, right, like around the age of 2, I think, basically when they start walking, right, they're always falling down, always hurting themselves. They always have these bruises, scraps, right? and it's extremely difficult for you to see as a parent, like, you know, especially as an empath, you know, when your child gets hurt, you get hurt along with them, right? You can feel their pain, you want to take it away, but you can't, you know. So there's also that, right? And yeah, so parents have to be on all day long, guys, okay? So please don't judge a book by its cover, you know. Don't just say like, oh, she's a single parent, label, right? Applying labels hurt, okay? It doesn't do people justice, you know. It doesn't you don't hear the whole story. How did this person end up being a single parent, you know? Maybe they were in an abusive relationship. Okay, yeah, part of it was their fault to an extent, right? Because we pick our relationships, right? Yes. But some people are not as clever, right? They go into relationships, they don't, I don't know, maybe they don't know the red flags, right? Maybe they're not as clever, right? So they really do get tricked into you know, a situation where they end up with an abusive partner, and maybe they're inexperienced, you know. Inexperienced people can go into abusive relationships, get into them, right? And yeah, it just is what it is, right? So the inexperience can be against you too, can work against you too, right? And so it's kind of like developing a trauma bond, right? Before you know it, you're in a trauma bond. You don't want to be in it, but you know, energetically you're tied. So it's extremely hard. There's a soul tie, right? So it's extremely hard to leave physically, okay? Anyway, so yeah, guys, please don't judge parents because they're single, you know, they're single parents. In fact, we need that support. We need that. If you can, try to support them financially somehow. Try to help them out. Try to support them emotionally, you know. Tell them, give them a compliment, you know, encourage them, motivate them, you know. They're raising kids. They're raising kids that are going to be our next generation. And do we want, we are especially in the West, we're already living in a very screwed up society, right? A society that seems backwards, all the woke crap, right? All the, I don't know, you know, people they really are struggling. A lot of people are struggling with mental health, right? Problems and isolation and so on, right? And just like not having any support, being broke, having low confidence, blah, 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 right? Like yada, yada, yada. There are so many issues that our society is experiencing. We are in need of deep healing, okay? And guys, so that is the reason why you should be, instead of being so aggressive and pushy and just judgmental towards, instead of being like that with single parents or towards single parents, try to be more understanding, try to be more supportive. They are raising the next generation, okay? And the last thing that they need after you know, there are difficult days, right? Is more criticism, more judgment, more hostility. You know, single parents. You know, single parenting can also be really fun too. You know, there are always two sides, right? And I absolutely love my child, guys, and I decided to have my child alone, okay? So I am not here to complain, really, you know, but I really am here to just speak from my heart and to tell you what it's really like, you know, and it can be extremely difficult, but it's also very amazing, you know. Your child, your children can help you heal. Your children will trigger you like no other, right? Which means that you will know exactly what you need to work on to become a better person, right? To grow spiritually. Your children will be passionate, compassionate to you. Your children will forgive you very easily. They will teach you forgiveness too if you're having a hard time forgiving others. Your children will show you things in a completely different light. They will, you know, they will rock your world. You know, they will bring out the inner kid in you. Your life will become more fun. You'll play more, laugh more, you know, cry more. right? It's extremely difficult, but really at the end of the day, it is a God's gift to you, okay? So really appreciate that God's gift. See it for what it is, even though it's extremely difficult sometimes, right? I mean, guys, most of us parents, single or not, right, we're never prepared for a child. You can never be prepared for something that you've never done before, unless it's your second child, right? So your first child, you can never be prepared for them. There are no classes. I mean, there are classes, right? But even if you like babysat a lot in the past, right? You can never be prepared for actually having your own child, right? That you have to live with every single day, right? And maybe spend the majority of your time with, right? So it's something that you cannot be prepared for, and that's why I think a lot of parents are also very resentful and angry, and sometimes they're feeling like they're stuck, you know. Um, um, and you know what? I want you to also know that it is okay to have very conflicting feelings about parenthood. It's okay as long as you focus on the positive, okay? Try to see things from a different perspective, right, guys? It's all about how we view the situation, right? We can view anything from a bad side or a good side, right? So really it's up to you to choose what you want to focus on, right? Whatever we focus on grows, right? So always remember that, even when it comes to your kids, right? So yeah, there's that, right? And I guess I'm done here, guys. You know, just try to like I said, be supportive of single parents, okay? No matter how they ended up there. You know, yes, a lot of you might say it's their own fault, but does anyone really deserve to suffer? I don't think so, you know. We all deserve support, we all deserve love, okay? And we all make mistakes. Please let me know if any of you here haven't made a mistake before, right? Or I'm not saying that having a child is a mistake, no way, you know, no, that's not what I'm saying. But, you know, we all make mistakes, for example, in choosing the wrong relationships, right? That's what I mean. Um, or you know, even I don't know, we're all imperfect, we're learning, right? We're at different stages in our lives, right? So what I was, I don't know, like 10 years ago, that's like a completely different person, right? So I'm a completely different version of me right now than I was 10 years ago, you know. If I look back and look at myself 10 years ago, I would be like, who is this person, you know? So we change also. We change as we're growing, as we're learning, as we're developing, right? As we're maturing. And so there's always that too, okay? Anyways, guys, you know, like I said, right? Having a child is God's will, okay? Giving you that child, giving you that gift. Recognize that gift for what it is, because it is a gift. Okay, it's a gift to you and it's a gift to the world. All right, so don't look at it just from a 3D perspective. Look at it from a 5D perspective as well. Okay, much love to you guys. Okay, if you are a single parent, then I have a lot of compassion to you, and I really understand you. Um, and I know you can do it. You're a warrior. Yeah.